get into this. So first, we want to know a little bit of your background on how you got started into the whole, I would say, movement of really self-development is what I would call this. But where you kind of started to where you got to at the moment.
Yeah, so it's funny when I think back to this. Like, my mom was doing yoga when I was like 8 years old in the living room. The like workout tapes, when like tapes used to be up, I used to go out in the living room and she'd be rolling around and doing downward dogs. And I was like, what is my mom doing? So I feel like it was always in my atmosphere, it was always in my environment, like that like awareness, like that presence. Just seeing her do that, I feel like it was just a matter of like whenever I would align with it. So it's always like little seeds being planted. I would say I was kind of like the weird kid in middle school, just getting into things that maybe others weren't. Like, I gave up fast food pretty early. I remember in like 8th grade, I was like, I'm not eating fast food anymore. And I know that's kind of a surface level thing, but a lot of people in 8th grade are eating McDonald's and McFlurries and having, Friday nights out. And I was like slowly starting to just kind of be like waking up to the conditioning of a lot of things in this society and in this lifetime and whatnot. And I would say it really got deep though, and really like started to unpack, I guess. Probably, I mean, breathwork obviously accelerated it. I'm sure we're going to get into that, but really like a big wake up for me was 2016. I lost a loved one, like, to a tragedy, and it was the first time I ever thought about life and death like that closely. I've lost a lot of people, but that was somebody that was like I considered like an extended brother. So it was like a big wow. What is life? What is heaven? What is hell? What is God? What is all? Like, first time I really that close, got to look at the picture. So that kind of took me on like a deeper journey of like self and identity and ego and attachments and all that stuff. But leading up to that, yeah, I was like keeping dream journals and watching conspiracy movies and changing up my diet and all those kind of things. But I think it got deep like 2016 for me.
Would you say that maybe your brother was a big inspiration on having you go down the path that you went as well?
Yeah, I would say so. I really think our mom is kind of the leader of it all, though. She's always been a little out of the box. And so, like, he followed, and then naturally, well, he followed our oldest brother, and then naturally, me being the youngest sibling, I followed Big Bro. So, yeah, I could definitely say that he kind of, like, paved the way. But ultimately, like, we all got our own journeys. And even now, at the age I'm at, like, we share a lot in common, but we are also we have a lot of contrasts at the same time. But yeah, he's definitely planted a lot of the seeds. I mean, my first breathwork session was led by him. So for sure, I couldn't not take that for sure. A lot of people either find me or find him, we're like a combo. You find one, you get the
Right.
other. Yeah.
So I was watching your video earlier and I thought it was very interesting how you were talking about breathing. And I was like, that's very interesting. You were talking about how breathing is actually like connected to anxiety and our thoughts. And I really have never thought about it that way. So if I could just ask you to kind of like go over that a little bit more, because I honestly have never heard that before. And I actually never correlated the two either.
Yeah. So it's a lot we could say, but I won't keep y'all here till midnight, my time midnight. I guess it's really like as simple as, a lot of emotions when we're crying, when we're laughing, when we're upset, when we're calm. Think about how you're breathing in those spaces. Think about where your mind is going when you're on the treadmill versus when you're going to bed. Like, there's a different thought pattern and a different breath pattern in those spaces. And a lot of times, most of us are in this kind of subtle hyperventilation and don't really realize it, or really holding on to a lot. And you can't really have a conscious thought and a conscious breath at the same time. So that breath is really like the anchor. So realizing how connected they are, like even if you get into zodiacs or whatever, air signs, thoughts, they tend to be more into their thoughts in the mind and mental stimulation. Like air, thought, it's all kind of in the same place. And once you experience that, once you experience what it feels like to take a conscious breath, I think it's kind of like a big light bulb that goes off, because there's no space for thought. You're just completely in the now, in the inhale, in the exhale, like really in the breath. And yeah, that's the short answer. There's a lot I could say, but basically it taps right into our nervous system. Our brain is a part of our nervous system, right? So we're either in the parasympathetic, this like more calm space, place of like meditation where you go to sleep, where you're in the sympathetic fight or flight, which I was saying a lot of us kind of are at most of the time and don't even realize it. Like probably most of us right now, most of us watching, don't even realize it, but 18 or more breaths is that space of like subtle hyperventilation. We're a very nervous, sensitive society, more than we'd like to probably admit. So yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's just something to bring awareness to.
All right, how you doing tonight, Casey? I like your videos. I was listening to you on YouTube today as well. I
Hey,
was like, yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that, Jose.
yeah. I knew about you through your brother too. So of course, to each his own. But I
Hey,
definitely
man.
I like
Take it.
I like your approach though. It's really organic and it's welcoming. Like that's what I liked about your videos. You weren't too overpowering. You weren't like, going over people's heads with the information. You were being very transparent and, kind of giving people like bits and pieces for them to put together. And
Yeah, I like to think my brother is kind of like I won't say more aggressive, but I'm kind of the like
oh yeah,
vocal thing, and then you can see him once you get in, like, like,
right,
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
that's a true story because Taylor Taylor will go in and then he'll be like, "You'll get it when you get it," you know.
Yeah, right.
Like,
He's not holding your hand. And granted, like sometimes I can be like that too, which I'm doing my best to be better at. But he's definitely not holding your hand at all.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
no, but yeah, no, but you guys are amazing. Once again, we appreciate you coming on. So we'll get right into the meat of everything. So before we do get into breath work, one thing I wanted to touch on, maybe a lot of people don't ask you about, and don't or aren't really too familiar with the lifestyle, but you had a whole period where you were living basically in a van and out of a van and just enjoying the van life in nature. And I wanted you to talk about that and the detachment from, everyday life in the sense of the city life and the grid. And, what did you find the most fulfilling life wise out of living that lifestyle?
I appreciate that question. Honestly, it's like a refreshing one because a lot of people kind of skip that chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I lived out of I still have it, but the Ford 91 Econoline van. It was built out when I bought it back in 2020, right before everything happened in the world. And it was perfect timing for me. I had just really gotten deep into the breath and really started getting into like the Tao Te Ching and just Taoism, which is really like living from a neutral space, essentially. And one of the bars in there that really just like I don't know, man, just like really hit me harder than all the other bars was just that like when you give everything up is really when you receive everything. And I just started to see how much like I was attached to so many external things. Like once you feel this internal worth, you're like, okay, do any of these things really validate me though? Like these clothes, the makeup I'm wearing, even some of the people I'm hanging around, like it was just a big kind of wave of like, okay, everything must go. Everything's gotta go. And so yeah, I sold everything, sold my bed, sold everything. So it's crazy now to be like in an apartment that's like fully lit back, but it's different this time. And
Right.
yeah, I would say like if I could say like some of the biggest things that I took away from it was just the less is more, and it's something I'm think anybody who follows me, I probably beat that like phrase down to the pulp, but it's such a valuable phrase. It's so simple, but like more is really always less. Like when it comes to food, when it comes to music, when it comes to people, like quality is really over quantity anytime for me. And just like I lived in Florida for a little bit on a fruit farm and just out of the van, living so simply like that and seeing things just grow so organically and like kind of just really being that much like a degree closer to nature than I've ever been. Like was just a big wake up for my like circadian rhythm as far as sleep goes. I remember that was probably one of the first things that I was like, what? Like I'm waking up with the sun, I'm going to bed when it's time to go to bed and not all these lights and distractions and all these things. I was really just, I felt like I was the closest to my nature I've ever been. And sometimes, honestly, I still think about, like, I'm about to go back in this van. I'm about to do this. So, yeah, it was just like the closest to my natural self I feel like I've ever been in my life, honestly. Just giving everything up. I really received everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lesson a lot of people don't, they don't really find, I guess, living their normal lifestyles. And so, I want to ask this question, and I'll pass it over to you, Bree, is do you feel that this is something maybe, obviously not everyone can probably do it, but at least the majority of people should just detach themselves from what they find comfortable and maybe just even try a lifestyle such as, even if it's not living out of a van or living in a van, but just really delving into that lifestyle of being detached from what we're so used to.
So you're asking like, do I think people should do that more and look into it
Yes.
more? I think if you can, if you have the opportunity and the space to in your lifetime, like I didn't have any, I don't have any kids. I'm not married. I work from home, so like stars kind of aligned for me to go. But I mean, even in that sense, like you said, you don't have to necessarily move into a van to experience that level of detachment. I think just through our life experiences, we can really like stop, pause, breathe, and go into that like observer. And the more and more you do that when it comes to especially like our emotions that we're so good at just absoluting and attaching to, like, I have anxiety. Like, you don't have it, you're just experiencing it. A lot of these times we're just like attached to these things. So the more you can just like practice that observer space or that witness space and really be more in like the spirit than the body, I think that is where that detachment can really form. And yeah, you'd be surprised. I think a lot of these validations externally through Instagram, through whatever our homes look like they're cool, they're awesome, and even I like my place. But at the end of the day, if this all was not here, like who would you be? And I mean that's the root of I think all of kind of what we're all saying. What I'm saying here with van life.
Right.
It's just like what's the root? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like minimalism. It's pretty much, yeah, you
Yeah.
said so many things beautifully that I feel like if you don't, uh, you have to kind of know just a little bit about it for it to actually resonate with your being. I'll go ahead and pass it to you, Bree.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, like, what exactly led you on that journey, and why did you stop?
The van life specifically journey.
Yes.
Yeah, I can honestly say breath work. I know that sounds like okay, she's gonna keep saying this, but yeah, it just kind of like nourished me in a way that I realized like we don't need all these external things. You have everything you need within. I got really heavy into fasting. I'm still pretty like prioritize that a lot. But yeah, I got really into just detoxing, and that's more than just like a scientific thing, like that's all around toxic people, toxic things. And so I just craved to just be out of the, I guess for lack of better terms, the matrix. I just wanted to like go off grid for a bit and experience that contrast. And so the more and more I was fasting, the more and more I was doing breath work, the more empty I was. I felt like there was more space for me to explore, if that makes makes any sense. Just really being closer to God ultimately. And I stopped. I did it for about a year. I traveled across country, lived with my brother for like 2 months. Came on back. When did I come back? last year, last like summer. And honestly, it's a lot. I mean, I was gonna follow up eventually, so I'm glad you asked that. Like, van life is beautiful. It has beautiful moments. You're out in nature. You're sleeping with the moon, waking up with the sun. But as a solo female, for one, there is just this like layer of a little bit of worry. Sometimes you're just like, is it safe here? What's up? Like, the people are still people. America's still America. Never really know. And so there is just like a little worry of that sometimes. And just like the constant motion. I like my stability sometimes. I really like routines. I really like a little bit of predictability. Like, there's just certain things like I couldn't just wake up and do yoga outside if it's pouring rain. Like, there's just a lot of things that I really prioritized and like made me feel good. Like when we first got on, you were saying you were productive and not busy. Like, started to feel like I was just being busy and moving around and doing a lot, but I don't know that I was really being productive anymore. And so I just wanted a home base. I think it'll always kind of be a part of my lifestyle. I've always been a traveler. So like I just wanted a place to call home at the end of the day that I can go out and explore and then I can come back and be like, I'm safe. This is mine. Like, it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
LJ.
hell yeah. Um, I just want to commend you on the van life because I lived in, me and my girl was staying in the Jeep for like a couple months and we just traveled up the West Coast, like, you know, travel all the way up to Oregon and we were staying on a farm, a fruit and vegetable farm, but all organic food and it was beautiful. So like I get you about being a natural traveler and then wanting a place, you know, to just be called home. Like it's two
Hmm.
different, it's just two different worlds. Like that life
Yeah.
is it's super fun. It's got a lot of good things. And then there is that riskiness that you're just like,
And
I'm
yeah,
in the
sometimes you're
middle
just
of
like, I want to shower, man. I just want to take a shower. I just want to go home and I just want to take a shower.
yeah, exactly. Or you got to use the restroom and you're just like
Right.
trying to be civilized about it. And you're just like, oh, where do I go?
Yeah, you really you
Yeah,
get on your animalistic behavior a little bit. You're out here
yeah,
in the wild.
definitely. Definitely. I think the thing I wanted to ask is about do you feel yourself releasing when you like when you started doing like your breath work? Did you feel yourself releasing all the toxin or whatever you felt was left in you that you needed to clear up, or like how was that process for
Yeah, I mean, I won't say that I'm 100% clear of toxins at all by any means. I'm still a student, just like we all are. But I definitely did. I mean, like I said, it kind of just the want to want is so like so powerful. We're so used to, and this is I'm getting this from my brother. I gotta steal it real quick. But he always has this like quote of like we're always on this like pursuit of happiness, but it's really the happiness of pursuit. A lot of times, like we're just always in pursuit. We're always wanting. And so breathwork really kills the appetite. And if anybody like has experienced breathwork for like at least 30 minutes in the morning, you'll notice like, oh wow, I do a lot of things at a habitual, like just a toxic habitual pattern, and you don't even realize like I'm not hungry, I don't really want to do this. I just feel voids a lot of times with these distractions or these consumptions or these people even. So yeah, I definitely did, and that's kind of how the fasting started to happen. And I just started to kind of live with less and like fill my time consuming, I guess, just a little more like playfully. Honestly, I would spend like hours doing yoga or like learning something or reading a book or just got really like into creativity itself, like into life itself, honestly. And
you?
yeah, it just kind of skyrocketed from there. Yeah, I hope that answered that question, but yeah.
Oh no, it definitely did. I mean, as soon as you mentioned yoga, I'm like, oh yeah, she definitely's been releasing a lot because my I remember
Yeah, I mean,
my first yoga session. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Whew.
And I had been doing yoga for years, man, but doing the breath and seeing how much more flexibility and space I had, especially with like less blockages in the body and in the system, I was like, oh wow, I can do all kind of stuff here. It was like it just got way more fun. And then even on a physical sense, I did release parasites, like physical parasites in the body and worms and stuff, and still on that journey to this day. Like I said, I'm still learning just like everybody else. But yeah, definitely released a lot emotionally, physically, all layers. Released a lot.
Absolutely.
I want to ask a question before I move to the next topic, and it's a pretty cliche question, but I'm a traveler myself. LJ is a traveler. Bree, I'm pretty sure you're probably a traveler. So I'm just curious: is by living the van life, what has been probably the best, or some of the best places that you've been to and have experienced?
You know, it's funny. Not a lot of people actually ask that. You would think that is a cliche question, but like, I don't know. People just ask like, "Why'd you do it?" And then I'm like, "Oh,
Uh,
okay." Um, but I would say, man, Arizona was really sweet. I feel like Arizona was a really sweet spot. Like, just why am I blanking on what it's called?
is it
Oh,
Sedona?
okay. Sedona. Thank you. I'm like
Know it.
S something. What is it called?
The
Yeah, Sedona
vortex,
was
the
beautiful.
vortex.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Sedona was like I've been there a few times, but being able to be there in the van was just like a whole other experience. Really, California itself was beautiful too. I went to Joshua
Yeah.
Tree. That was beautiful. And down even in Florida, like on the fruit farm, honestly, it was really, it's a small town called Punta Gorda. Not really many people go there. It's kind of like a retired town, like a sleepy, not beach town, but just a sleepy retired town. And just waking up to just fruit growing and greenery and blue skies every day. And it was like during February, so it was like winter, and that honestly was like incredible for me. I was there for like a month or so, and I still go back there sometimes just randomly when I just need that little bit of nourishment. So
Well, I think a cool place to go. I'm not a traveler, I'll be honest with you. I grew up on the West Coast. I now live in the South. Never really been a traveler, but I did watch this video in Europe. They don't have van life, but they actually have boat life. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So they will literally go and take old boats and they will remodel the entire thing and it will look like homes. So when I heard about you, I was like, wow, that's really interesting to learn because oddly enough, I feel like we're going to head that way where we're either in vans, tiny living, or on boats. I feel like that's more practical, like, for the US pretty soon. But if you guys have time to look into that, I would encourage you to look into it because it was really interesting to learn about that.
yeah, I've seen that. That's
Mm.
next level. That's
Yeah.
on the water,
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah, my girlfriend lived on a boat for like half a year, so
Wow.
she's definitely beating me in the travel game right now.
Damn, that's
But
yeah. Hats off to her. I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm like my earth
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. The car was rough too. So, but like, I'll advise this: if you can ever take the opportunity to just drive up to Oregon through like Northern California from
Man,
Mount Shasta.
that was on my list, and it didn't end up happening, but it's still
Oh
gonna
Yeah.
happen.
yeah, we had stayed before we went out to Oregon. We stayed in Mount Shasta for a night. Man, that place
Yeah.
is really like everything that people have always told me about it is super magical. Like
Wow.
the
Now I
energy
gotta
there. Yeah.
Right.
I gotta see that.
LJ, real quick, I'm glad you brought that up because this was actually a question I did want to ask Casey was since you've been like we mentioned Sedona. Sedona is a place that when from what I've looked up and I've heard where the energy is just different there. And when you are implementing something like breath work, which of course in a few we'll get to what that is and what that consists of, but when you are introducing something like that into your life and you're actually out here in these types of places and in nature, um, do you sense that it is so much more powerful to kind of just embody all of that together from the
Um,
place that you're in and from implementing breath work?
yeah, definitely, because I really do believe the external reflects the internal. Like everything going on in the world, I think is a big reflection of a lot of internal shit going on with us. But that's a whole other topic. But it's funny enough, Arizona is actually where I learned breath work. My brother was teaching his first set, or not his first session, but the session was out there, and we ended up going that weekend. Me, him, and a friend of ours, Audra, went out to Sedona, and we were doing breath work like 3 times a day out there, and it was my first time really consistently doing it, period. But to be doing it in that space alone was just like, oh wow, like the air, like the trees breathe, we breathe, the earth breathe, like everything has this inhale, exhale, this yin, this yang, like it's really this harmony that's like going on all the time. As poo-poo as that sounds, I really felt it for the first time then, and yeah, I definitely think like the environment in which you really connect has a big impact on how deep you can really go.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
important thing. I think that kind of gets, I would say overlapped when you're looking into certain stuff is that just the environment that you're in and, the place that you're in. And, I wanted to jump over to self-development a little bit because with pretty much everything you've said with, living your van life for the period that you did and also that kind of started with doing breath work, that this is all stuff that aids into personal self-development. And a lot of people have their own ways of maybe looking at self-development. Some people just look at it as exercise, going to the gym, transforming their body in a physical sense. But this is more of a inner thing. So do you have anything I would say you want to speak on in terms of that inner self development?
Yeah. I think like just all I can speak from is my personal experience, but specifically, I guess with breath work and just like with my journey in the past 3, 4 years, I think I've just gotten. It's funny. I know we were saying van life brought me closer to nature, but I really feel like breath and just presence, like closer connection to my true self. I had, and still sometimes have, because like I said, still learning, still growing, but moments of really like molding to the people around me for validation, or even in relationships and stuff, kind of like mirroring them and not even really, you know, kind of just losing myself essentially in my environments and in my spaces, and not really, you know, that quote of like, fall for anything, you stand for nothing. And I feel like I really didn't know like the foundation of like who I was beyond who I looked like, what my name was, you know, any of this stuff that, you know, validates and you can check off like, this is Casey. And so for me, like I was kind of saying, it's like less of the physical, like you said, working out and all of that stuff. I'm not gonna say it's spiritual in its own sense. I don't think there's a separation between the body and the spirit necessarily, but I think I was really attached more so to the like identity I showed up as and what people identified me as. And so going a little bit more inside and like listening and like to me and listening to spirit, you know, breath, spirit, same word, same meaning. Instead of the outside, it was like just a big shift for me. Like we get filled with so much information all day long, from Instagram to people, like news. There's just so much exchange happening. So to have an exchange inside is like a whole different experience. And that's kind of like, I feel like what's brought me here today, where I can like really say that I actually like fully am creating freely and living a little more naturally. And like, it doesn't, even if I'm not living in the van, I'm still really true to my nature, despite what the physical is looking like right now, you know? So the internal to me, I feel like makes the external kind of like less attachment to the external ultimately, I guess. It's a quick way to summarize that.
No, yeah, I think
I'll just go and go and go.
no, I think that was actually beautifully said. I mean, I think you pretty much said everything that was needed to say in that small portion. To be honest, yeah. I mean, everything I feel like is always going to boil back down to self, and you have to look at self in order to have that self development. It's called self development, not outer development. You know.
Right.
I want to get into the meat of it, I guess, so to speak, even though I don't eat that. Is I want you to, for people who probably, you know, like such as Bree, who's probably not too familiar with breath work, what it is, what it consists of, can you kind of give us a short synopsis of what breath work is?
Sure. So unlike what we're probably used to, meditation, breath work is, I would say, more active meditation. It's a little more like active conscious practice. Meditation is beautiful, and I honestly just did one like right before we hopped on this call, and I still think there's a million benefits in meditation. Sometimes it can just get like a little daydreamy, a little like you drift off. So for the best way for me to experience or explain it is that breath work is like just a very more active, present version of, you know, tuning into the breath. There's a million ways to breathe. So like you look up breath work, you're gonna get a million different answers as to what it is or like what it looks like. But essentially I like to just simplify it and say it's breath awareness, because honestly, like, yeah, you can sit aside an hour or 30 minutes to do breath work, but being aware of your breath while you're in the gym, while you're driving, or while you're making your cup of coffee, like that is still considered breath work. Because I find a lot of people are like, I don't have time for this. And I'm like, hey, you're always breathing. I like to just emphasize that it's not a like compartmentalized, like separate tool or practice. Like breathing is the basis of life, right? Breath is life. We can go days without eating, without sleeping, without doing a whole bunch of stuff. You can't do anything without breathing. It is like the foundation. So knowing that and connecting to that kind of sets up for those other things to be more present. You can choose your food more presently. You can sleep deeper. You can have more vivid dreams just by having this foundation of the breath. So in the shortest way to put it, it is just like an active presence with an inhale, with an exhale, and that can look, like I said, a lot of different ways. Personally, I tend to practice more of like the slower tumo diaphragmatic breathing, just from the belly, from like a lower portion, a little deeper than a lot of us usually do. The same way babies breathe, from their belly, from a deeper space. You look at babies, they're always like bellies are out, full of life, full of expression. And yeah, and in the simplest way, like breath is life. So doesn't have to be this super overcomplicated thing. It's really just like where you're breathing from is where you're living from ultimately. Like, is it shallow? Is it deep? Just be aware of
Mm,
it.
Yeah, no, that's right.
bars, bars right there.
Right.
Bars right there.
Casey just made people put something new in their caption.
Yeah.
You're
Bree,
welcome.
Bree, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, so what would be pretty much like the benefits of breath work, besides just learning to be like more conscious of how we're breathing? Um,
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you, I don't really understand it too much. So
Yeah. Well, have you ever done meditation?
I wouldn't say that I've meditated. No.
Okay. Or any kind of like stillness practice where it was like, just focus on your breath.
No,
Anything
no,
like
not
that you do?
focusing, not focusing on my breath. Like I do believe in waking up in the morning, like when it's still, and like I guess maybe talking to God and drawing closer to Him, but
Yeah.
actually meditating, no.
Okay. Fair game. Fair enough. Yeah. So you were asking, sorry, what was that? Rephrase the question one more time because my mind just went a million places.
So pretty just simple. Like, what's the benefits to
What are
it?
the
Like, what
benefits?
is,
Okay.
yeah.
So there could be a lot, but ultimately I think presence is like the key to everything that we do. I mean, if you're doing it and you're not in the body, who's doing it? You know, like who's there? Like who's home? If your body's just on autopilot, why do it? Why be there? Ultimately, like on a scientific level, we could nerd out for a while. I mean, like it's cured and reversed a billion diseases and circulate. It's good for functioning the digestive system, circulation, for brain cognition. If you have any type of anxiety or depression, a lot of grief lives in the lungs. A lot of traditional Chinese medicine believes in that. So like again, we store away so much tension and trauma in the body. Like the body keeps score, and muscle memory is a real thing. So like a lot of times I'll sit and I'll consciously breathe. I'll just actively be aware of my breath for 5 to 10 minutes, and I will realize that like my emotions or whatever, my body is actually speaking to me, and I'm not really listening to it. There's actually something like going on a deeper sense. I'm just on autopilot, and I'm just like, okay, I got to do this today. I got to go here. I got to film this video, whatever. But when you really take a moment of just that stillness to just check in and really, I mean, check in with God, ultimately, whatever that looks like for you. But like in those moments, I think you're already kind of doing it, maybe not aware you're doing it, but just having that moment to release. It's a big release in the body. It's a big way to listen to the body and see where the tension and where the traumas are. Because a lot of times we get physical tensions in the body and we think it just showed up out of nowhere. But a lot of times things happen metaphysically or energetically, I should say, before they show up in the body. That's kind of like the last stage. Like our backs may hurt because we don't feel supported. Our knees hurt because we're stubborn and we don't want to like be flexible. I mean, if that goes over your head, so be it. But just in the sense of saying that it ultimately, I think the umbrella of it all is that it is a really powerful release and a way to remove blockages, toxins, tension, trauma, emotional traumas, and to be present in more so in this body and in this space than like in the past or in the future or anywhere your mind's trying to take you. Really just like be here now. On the science level, I could be here all day, but yeah, that's what it means to me anyway. So ultimately, like our nervous system is present in every decision we make. Your brain is a part of your nervous system. So just circling
Right.
back to say that it's a part of just like resetting the nervous system. You know, a lot of us, like I was saying, are more anxious than we realize. So it's just being actively aware of it and just, you know, taking a check in, like, am I okay? Am I good? Am I, you know, where am I at right now? Not even am I okay? Am I good? Like, where am I at right now? More so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh no, I just, man, that was beautifully said. And I believe like as far as like especially breath work, the more I got into it, the more I realized how anxious of a person I was for so long. And just really like being able to stop myself and control my breaths when I feel anxious has been like a superpower to me. And so
Hmm.
just watching your videos and how you connected it to the nervous system before I even knew that as a fact, I was just like, this is why this is just, you know, this is just kind of confirmation that the body knows what it needs, and you will get that confirmation in one wave or another. And I
Yeah.
believe that. And it's kind of like, just for me, I would just say a lot of my problems did resist, like they like were getting resolved through meditation, through yoga and things of that nature, and being by myself. Like I would wake up and just take that time to myself. Like I've been doing that a lot lately, just reading or just like meditating first and stretching and thinking about how I feel in this moment, and actually paying attention to my breaths. Like if I'm thinking about something and it's causing me to start breathing heavy, I need to deal with that right away before I start my day, you know, out in the world. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like it's going from autopilot to presence. Like when I first did breath work, I was like, man, I've been on autopilot my whole life. We're always doing, not really being. When are we ever just being? We're always doing.
No,
Absolutely.
that is beautifully said because autopilot, or robot is when you're not in control. So when you actually are like you said, present and you are controlling your breath, you're controlling your body. And it's the same thing like with fasting and stuff like this. Like there's people who can't, they say they can't do it. Like I literally had people tell me I can't go without eating, which tells me you have no discipline and you can't control your body. Your
Yeah,
body's controlling you. And so in this same sense, that your breath is controlling you if you can't control your breath. And we all know you need to breathe to live. So are you
right,
really living?
right, exactly.
If you
Yeah.
can't control your breathing. And so I wanted I wanted to know from you is ever since you have started this and been really on this journey, have you seen your life? I'm pretty sure you have, but for people who may not correlate the two, have you seen your life be more in control and more just productive and successful ever since you've taken that control over your body and your mind?
Yeah, it's funny. That was the perfect what I was about to say anyway. I was gonna say like, breath is life, right? So like, I think a lot of times it's like I'm trying to control life by controlling breath, but for me, it's like I'm not trying to let life control me. I'm just trying to have my stability. Like life doesn't. I'm not attached to what. I'm just everything's a reaction. So, but in a sense, yeah, my whole entire reality has shifted. Before I got into breathwork, I was working 60-hour work weeks in the film industry, 12-hour days, hour commute there and back. It's on a whole different frequency of life. I was vegan and doing yoga and like still into wellness, but I can honestly say like the breath work really just made me like, oh, I'm really exchanging energy here at this workplace, and I'm receiving energy, right, money, and it's not where my spirit really wants to be. It's like it's a trade that it doesn't feel valuable to me, like, and it just without my even making the cognitive decision, things just started to unfold for me. It wasn't even like I decided I'm going to go a 60-day fast. I decided I'm going to go get rid of all this stuff and live in a van. Like a lot of this was just like subconscious was just detoxing. And a lot of these absolutes of like, well, you're supposed to get a job. I mean, this is part of life. You're supposed to do this. And like, these are, right? This is life. All of it just started to kind of like fade away. And it was more so like, okay, like life doesn't have to control me. Like, I do have a control in the breath. And I do have, a sense of, in that sense, like a control of like what reality I want to shape or what I want to manifest in a sense, to some extent. I'm not God necessarily, but I'm in the likeliness of God. And so with that being said, yeah, my entire, now I work from home. Now I travel freely. I'm totally my own business. I know people that have paid off their whole debts as soon as they got into breathwork. Like a lot shifts, I think, when you start to really value and see the, I don't know, the frequency or the exchange that like the breath is. We trade breath for money just to get food that then keeps us sedated to then go to work to then, it's just like the cycle you're in. You're on this hamster wheel. And I don't know, long story short, I tapped into the breath and got off the hamster wheel, and I'm like very happy about where I'm at now, needless to say.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
I want to say something, then I'll pass it over to you guys, and then we'll get over into the questions from the viewers. Is pretty much, like we said, going back to control and having that control is, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you just said, a lot of people, I feel like, are being robots right now. Like and they may not be aware of it. And understanding something as simple as controlling your breath, which is automatically, I feel like, autopilot because you can't eat without breathing. You can't drink without breathing. Like there's nothing that you can do without breathing.
Right.
And when you do take that simple thing under your full control, that you then have control over everything around you. And I say this goes back into environment because a lot of people may be doing yoga or meditation in their homes with computers and cell phones around and TVs around. And just in my perspective, I don't feel like this is an environment you want to really be um, doing this type of stuff in because I feel like it's really a detachment from what is natural in nature. So, do you feel like if you are just getting into this, or maybe just now knowledgeable of it, that you should be detaching from those types of things as much as possible and getting back to nature as much as possible, just to feel that connection more strongly?
Yeah, I think when you start to do it, it'll naturally happen. Because I didn't, like I said, I didn't even plan to get into this kind of lifestyle. I literally never thought about living in a van in my life. I never thought about living in a yurt. I never thought about any of this stuff. Like I
Right.
was on the autopilot plan. That's the plan I chose for life. And I think naturally you yearn to be closer to it. You naturally feel you're more sensitive, but in a sense because you're not as numb. Like, a lot of times I get around my family and they're like, "Ah, you're so sensitive to like foods." You're so, like my parents will sometimes just say little comments and I'm like, maybe I'm just not as numb. Like I just feel this like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and like all this stuff in the air, and I can just be more in my body than I've ever been. And so like you said, a lot of us are just kind of on this like robotic space. And I mean, I think we're all kind of mirrors in some sense. So like, I'm sure we all got our things, but yeah, I think once you naturally start to get into spirit, get into the breath, get into like controlling the nervous system, controlling the breath, yeah, like those wants and those needs, there's no better feeling than not wanting. To like not even have to make a decision, to just be like, well, I don't want it. It's like the best feeling. Like nothing
Yeah,
beats that. Like that's where breathwork took me. Like I was just like, what? I don't want it. I don't. It's not even a choice to mine. It's just like not a
yeah.
desire. Desire and peace can't really coexist. So
So it's like
Hmm.
nature becomes the automatic, like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's what I've
Really,
noticed. I would say just detaching, just you know what I mean,
right.
as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Just finding like a neutral space. Like I'm big on the Tao Te Ching, and if you follow my brother, I'm sure you've seen that he is too. But it is like a beautiful, powerful book. It is a really powerful one that just is like, man, the higher you go up the ladder, it's still shaky. Like you can stay on the ground, like winning and losing, yes and no, right and wrong. Like just that neutrality of detachment is a beautiful space to be. Obviously, it's a practice though, but yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Bree, LJ, before we go into questions, you guys have anything you want to top the subject off with?
For me, I definitely um I believe in like what you were saying about, you should get detached from the technology. And there's ways around it. Like I also believe if you can meditate and keep your like stillness with all these distractions around, you are fucking soup, like you are God at this point. you know like you have mastered the
Yeah.
manipulation of radio waves and all other type of frequencies to be able to balance yourself in the midst of the madness. And so
Nah, for real,
I,
that's a bar too. Yeah.
Yeah, and like also like yes, if once you start, it's like everything that we're talking about is a domino effect. Like once you do one thing, like the first thing I ever started this journey was me stop eating meat. That was the
Yeah.
start of it. 8 years ago. It was just like, I'm done with meat. And then I started getting into water, like, oh, I'm drinking the wrong type of water. Then it got
Hmm.
into like stretching and just getting more like involved and invested into my inner self and as well as my body and taking care of my body. And then it led
Yeah.
to other things. And I wanted to be out in nature all the time. So I started being out in
Hmm.
nature. I started being more barefoot. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. And
Yeah.
it just trickled down to all these different things. So I believe like everything, it's like it starts with one change. Like that's like for the audience, like all it takes is one difference, and that
Yeah.
thing is going to spiral out, and it's going to become this whole entire thing that you just created off of one decision.
Right. And a lot of times health happens when we stop something. Like more often than not, it's a stop. I mean, you stop to start something maybe else, but like you stopped eating meat. Like for me, same. I stopped eating meat. The whole you are what you eat. So that just like switched over to like I'm not eating a dead thing anymore. I'm feel a little bit more alive. Like it just leads you to you don't know what you don't
Exactly.
know. Ultimately, you just don't know what you don't know until until you know it.
And for you, Casey, too, because I remember seeing like your brother's videos and your videos from, years ago. Uh, if people are just following you, you can see the changes. Like you could see the glow, the difference from when you were fasting and juicing and, just taking like your health more on that path. That like those little differences you could see over time like crazy.
Yeah.
And so for LJ, like you were talking about when you stopped eating meat, I remember you told me you used to be big.
260.
Like you,
260,
yeah.
dog. I was 6'4", 260 with heart of like high blood pressure, and my heart used to be inflamed every time I would eat something. It was just that acidic. I
Yeah.
would eat through the heartburn. Like now that I think about it, I'm just like I was
Mm.
eating through the pain, like feeling the pain and self-inflicting myself by keep eating these things. It was just crazy. It was just
Yeah.
crazy.
No.
And like it's just funny to think about because when you were doing it, I mean, you didn't know. A lot of people are like, "I feel so good." I'm like, man, you don't even know how much better you could feel. And even me, like, there's probably a level that I'm like, I don't even know how much better I can feel than right now. It's like
Yeah.
there's levels.
Absolutely.
Consistently growing, and
Yeah.
learning. And that's the whole point I feel like of this whole live is that this is breath work is something that's a lot of people probably don't even know about, but it's something that's like you like you're always doing breath work. It's just that you're doing it at such a minuscule level that
Right.
you're not getting the fullest of life, and
Yeah.
that's the whole point of waking up to this.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
so I want to get to the viewers' questions. We have three down here from Sharon. She asked you, "Are you raw vegan?"
So I would say I'm like 80/20 as of today. I've gone through a lot of different phases so far. Up until 28, I still got a lot of room to grow. Like I said, I went a summer raw vegan. I've done fruitarian for a couple months. I was liquidarian for some months. But as of today, I would give myself like the 80/20. Like 20%, sometimes in social settings, sometimes it just, cook food. I'm still, it's the biggest addiction in the world, man, food. And I can just be honest and say it that, I still have my 20%. But for the most part, I find myself, yeah, like, especially when I'm really routinely with the breath, that desire is just like, I just want fruit or something lighter so that there's more space to breathe. We eat dense things, shallows the breath, and ultimately shallows the thought. It's just like a ripple that happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed the
Absolutely.
same. It's just like just from fasting, from not eating, you can smell everything around you.
Everything, it's
Everything. It
crazy.
is. And sometimes it's like a curse because when you start to smell certain foods like
I
meat
know.
being cooked, you're like, oh, like I know that's like the pig heart or something. Like like it's wild, but
Yeah.
it's once again when you detach from that, you're open to so much. And that is the whole
Yeah.
point is that I feel like it's like a trash can. I use this analogy sometimes. when a trash can is empty, you have all this space to put stuff in there. But when it's full, you're over flooded. You got to trash it, and that's what I
Yeah.
feel like breath work is. You know,
Yeah,
it's
you gotta
opening
let
that space.
the body knows so much more than we think it does, it's constantly going.
The
Yeah,
body's
absolutely.
more conscious than our own conscious itself.
Right.
I think that's what you learn when you start getting more into your body. You just like
You're
it's
like,
like
trust
to
this
us,
thing. Trust.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because
Hmm.
to us, we're like all shocked. We're like, wow, I feel really good, and your body's like, yeah, I know. This is what I've been
Right.
trying to get to.
I've been
This
working
is
Yeah.
overtime to give you what's right here. Yeah. You don't sleep
I
enough. You don't do this. Like, come on now, help me out.
exactly.
there's a question I want to ask too. But Bree, did you have anything that you wanted that you were gone for a minute, so I wanted to make sure there wasn't something you wanted to touch on real quick.
No, not really. The only thing that I was kind of hearing before, and I don't know if I heard it correctly, is like when you're living the van life and you're breathing, it's kind of like disconnecting you, you're detoxing. So I don't know if that's like if you're like on a journey to reach Navarre. How do you say it? Navarre? Is that how you say it?
Nirvana, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nirvana.
are you on
Nirvana.
that journey or?
I wouldn't necessarily say I'm attached to like a destination, I don't think there's necessarily like a now I made it. I think it's for me, like I just appreciate that I want to wake up and like feel the best that I can feel, ultimately in my body and show up for the people that I love the best way that I can. Really, like it really comes down to that more than anything. And you eat toxic foods or you're around toxic things, like ultimately you reflect that and you start to spread that. So just trying to, it sounds cliche, but just to spread love ultimately is really where it's all rooted from. But it's not necessarily like a euphoria that I'm trying to reach or anything.
Yeah, what are your favorite types of herbal teas?
So the daily herbal tea, I actually have like a little blog post about this, but I have it pretty much every day. Sometimes little variations, but the basis of like my three kind of gentle detoxifiers, gentle herbs are red clover, which is good for purification of the blood, burdock root, which is good for so many things, but the liver, the pineal. Dandelion is the third herb, which is also really good for
Mm.
the nervous system. Those three are kind of my like staple. I might add like a yellow dock. I might add a sarsaparilla. I might like actually just take an actual supplement, not in the tea. My tea is usually just
Mm.
distilled water with the actual powder of the tea, like a teaspoonish, maybe a little, depending on how I'm feeling. Some days a little bit more, depending on whatever I consume. But sometimes I might throw milk thistle in there. Um, but yeah, I just have the straight powder in the distilled water, maybe a squeeze of lemon. And then I might take capsule forms of like wormwood or
Mm.
parasites. I can
Distilled
do.
water, huh? I like that.
Yeah, when
I'm
you brought
learning.
up
I'm
water, I was
getting
like,
more into.
I wonder what
Mm.
water you're drinking. Yeah, I just do distilled because it's like, it's just, there's nothing in it. There's no inert minerals. It's just distilled water. It's like drinking clouds, I can say. That's the closest thing I can say.
Got you.
It's really simple, but to each his own, I guess. Water is a whole other controversial topic, I feel like, now in the world. People are like, no, this water, Kangen water.
Oh
Yeah.
no, no, I definitely with you. I've been doing more research. That's like I have 4 jugs, so I have 20 gallons worth of water, and like this is the first. I usually get like Kangen water, but this is the first. Like the last time I went, I just bought like a whole gallon of distilled
Oh,
just to
cool.
see how I feel about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just a lot
definitely.
lighter. If not, I do spring. But it's funny, like when you get into water, you can taste the differences in the thickness and taste of water. Like spring is like has a weight to it now to me. Now that I
Hmm.
distill. It's crazy.
You're
You
right.
only
It's
can you only can be drinking water. Like you have to drink so many different types of water to be knowing that. Like
Yeah.
exactly what you said, like the difference because I know people that still drink Dasani and I'm like,
Oh man. Aquafina? Y'all still drinking Aquafina out there? Come on.
I'm
Come on,
just
man.
That's
saying the
horrible.
We gotta do
purified
better.
just like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
We got options. There's too many options now. Come on.
Well, even even when it comes to bottled, like I don't even get bottled water no more. It has
Yeah,
to be in glass. Like I get Mountain Valley spring water is what it's called, and
that's
I
yeah,
actually
that's one of my favorites. I love that.
That's the good
yeah,
one. That's a good one right there. The
That is a
green,
good
yeah,
one.
that dark green bottle.
yep,
I got
yeah,
just
I
got
love
a
that water.
box. I got so many of those bottles laying around. But
No,
yeah,
seriously, yeah. I'm like I might as well start collecting the glass and just reusing them, or something.
right?
But
No,
um, yeah, but you're right. The water is a whole nother thing. But I know LJ, you had just posted something on that too. Like I don't know if it was today or the other day, but um, yeah, there's a lot of people who are talking about alkaline water, the Kangen water, the it's just so much with that. But even when it comes to teas, depending on the type of water you use, with those herbs, I think is a
yeah.
big thing. You know,
Yeah, I just use distilled because it's like, like I said, nothing else in it. And tea is just, it gets to the blood faster, versus
right?
just in the capsule. So I just try to keep it simple, man. But I drink spring sometimes. I drink an alkaline if it's around, but I really keep to distilled more than anything. Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited now.
But,
I'm looking
yeah, let
forward
me
to
know how it goes
this.
for you. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it should work. It should work for everybody. I mean, I don't know anyone, at least to this day, that I know of personally that thinks all water tastes the same. So, that was something that happened in like middle school where you're just like, "Ah, it don't
Yeah.
matter, it's water." Like it's Arrowhead. Arrowhead is horrible, by the way.
Horrible.
Um,
Horrible
you
water. That
I
is
don't
have
know
not
their
spring
head.
water.
no, and it has the audacity to say natural on the on the
They
label.
gotta stop
You
playing us
have
like
to
that.
go to Lake Arrowhead, and then you'll be like, I've been bamboozled.
Right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go there, and you're just like,
Yeah. Nah,
So you have another question that says, how often and how long do you fast?
great question. So I'm at a space now where like fasting has been a journey, I'll say, and started out really good, and then I kind of went down this like very constrictive, almost binge eating cycle, in all honesty, where I would break a fast poorly and then dive into all kind of things. I think a lot of people don't talk about that in the fasting community because I've talked to a bunch of people that can relate, and it's kind of wild how many of us discover this new thing. We're like, this is the best thing ever, and then it actually ends up kind of being this like kind of almost toxic absolute that we got to fast from eventually. Because that's kind of what I had to do in the last year or so, is like fast from this absolute and fear of food. Like that wasn't the point of fasting. It wasn't to be scared of food. It was to, live without it and like see what that space would feel like if you break the addiction, give the body a chance. So all that to say, I'm at a space now where I feel like I kind of healthily do it just when it's feeling like natural. I tend to, this year I've been on this like very natural, not planned thing with the new moon. I've just been going on these like 3 to 7 day little fasts, whether that's just juice or just water or just smoothies and juice, just like at a lighter space. I don't know. I've naturally just wanted to like get off social media at that time, fast from that, like just fast from all the social medias and all the consumption. Specifically, it's been around the new moon lately, but I'm kind of a believer in the moon
hmm,
cycles affecting us a lot. I don't know if y'all are, but yeah,
absolutely,
I tend to do that.
absolutely.
I've gone really long. I've gone like 60 days. I've done 30 days. I've just done a lot of little things, but I'm kind of just building a relationship to healthily do it. Like breaking a fast is really, I think, the part a lot of people fail at. I think any fool, there's like a quote that's like, any fool can fast, but a real genius or whatever word you want to insert there can actually break a fast properly. And so I'm at that space where I'm kind of like healing from a somewhat eating disorder that fasting kind of led to now being at a space of like, I'm not scared of food, but I don't necessarily like need, I know I don't need this the way that I thought I did kind of thing. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, that's a whole other bag. Fasting is a whole other bag.
No, yeah. I mean, I thought that was well said, and then I want to add on to that too, and kind of get your perspective on this. But I noticed that we talked a little bit about how you can smell everything when you fast because you're not bombarding your body with
Right.
this stuff that is filling up those spaces, so you're clear and you're clean. And when you're fasting and you have these heightened senses, such as your smell and even lights become brighter and all this stuff. You just become so much lighter. And when you notice, when you start to fill this stuff up with food, so if you're breaking your fast, you become, I've noticed, spoiled. Like it's happened to me before too, where I've broken my fast and I didn't necessarily break it wrong, but I broke it. And then after I just started
Yeah,
eating.
it's
And it
like a
was just
yo-yo.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's because you become so spoiled with food. And so the one thing I've noticed is that it's when you're fasting, you build that discipline to go without it. And the same thing that you're talking about with like van life and with breath work is going without things. So
Mhm.
fasting, I feel like, is a small, it's a big thing, but just a small portion of the overall picture of not needing and needing less,
Right.
and less being more. And I think people, it's like you said, that food is an addiction. It's just like a
Uh-huh.
drug,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I've said it before. My bad. You were going. Go ahead.
no, no, no. I mean, go chime in, chime in.
No, I was just gonna add, like, yeah, our body doesn't know the difference between illegal and legal, so it's all really just substance, and we just react to it. And so, like, with that being said, it's just about being aware of the substance you're putting in your body. Like, it's all drugs. It's all. If anybody says they don't have an addictive personality, tell them to stop eating, and they'll be like, I can't. Like,
Just
we're addicted. It's the biggest addiction there is. I mean, and I
Just
don't
to
say,
piggyback off of what you just said too,
yeah,
is the number one way that I know that it's drugs is because when I do eat and like, or if I'm breaking a fast or whatever, whenever I put something in my body, it is halting the clearness and the cleanliness of my overall being. So when you are fasting and you notice that your sense of smell is immaculate, you're like, wow, I can smell everything. I can breathe fully. And
right,
then when you put something in there that halts that, it shows you that there is something that is working with your overall physical being that is halting that process.
hmm,
And that's why, at least where I'm at personally in my life, I actually like not eating more than eating. The
yeah,
sensation of having like that taste and it being delicious maybe is cool. That's great. But the feeling of being light and not needing is the best thing. Like you have to actually just do it instead of me
yeah.
just saying it, you know?
I know it's kind of hard to like convince people like no, really not needing anything is the best thing in the world because it's funny when you get into fast, you're almost like, why would I ever do that? Like, eating stimulates eating, like dehydration wants more dehydration. But once you start to get hydrated and your cells start to actually like function properly, they're like, oh, thank God, you were suffocating us with all this acidity and inflammation and like all this stuff. Like, give us a break for a second. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like
Man.
the one to one is a real thing, man.
And
Um,
before you go, LJ, just real quick, I wanted to ask you this too, Casey, is when since they kind of go hand in hand with like, the fasting and kind of with breath work, because if you are fasting, you can breathe fully.
Hmm.
And I've noticed that like crazy. I mean, your dreams become more and more vivid because you are getting more and more air
Yeah.
slash life in your body. Is when you're doing this, do you see any of those types of effects? I would guess you can probably connect them with psychedelic in a sense, but those
Hmm.
vivid dreams and those,
Yeah.
maybe even, visions, whatever you want to call them, lights, colors, and all this. Do you ever see this when you are practicing this
Yeah.
fully?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, some people, I guess people would argue it, but it's like DMT is released in the lungs. It's like the spirit molecule that's already in our body, and it's released when we dream. So, in like sleeping is like unconscious breath work. Really, it's just your breath, your body catching up on the breath. So yeah,
mm,
I've like I've had some wild visions. I've felt all the tingles all over the body. And then, like you said, when you're fasting, it's just like a whole different presence you can feel the blood in your toes. You can feel, like it's like I'm fully immersed in this body. Like, it's like blood rushes to those spaces it needs to heal, right? And so, like, when you get a cut, blood rushes to the surface. And so like our whole body has a chance. Like the circulation is actually like properly functioning and healing, and like inflammation's going down, and like you're able to just, there's so much more space in the body to receive so much. Like I always say, like breathe to receive. Like yeah, I've felt all kind of things. It's really like a big spiritual connection for me. Like, you know, obviously the physical is one, but it's just really like the spiritual connection to, you know, ancestors or to messages or to, like you said, visions. Yeah, it's gotten trippier and trippier the more I've gotten into it, for sure.
I bet.
Man.
Yeah. A lot of people think it's just like, and it's funny because there's so many ways to breathe. I just have to add, like, there's that quick high of, like, you know, a lot of us are familiar with Wim Hof, and no shade to Wim Hof. Like, I think there's a million benefits there. But those like longer durations of breath, I think, is really, especially when you're fasting, you can really have the patience for it. You can have the presence and the patience to be conscious of your breath for 40 minutes and like really receive those messages and really like unpack emotions that, you know, you didn't even know were there. Or like, and I think emotions, people always think you're just gonna end up crying. Like it's not like that. Like you might be actually really happy by the end of your med session. You know, you might have like a lot of gratitude in your heart. It could go a lot of ways is all I'm saying. But yeah, slow and steady
Yeah.
race for me.
Just to add on what we was talking about with fasting, because I know you said you used to break yours pretty bad. I I myself personally, I fasted a few. I used to do it pretty often. I'm getting back into being more consistent.
Yeah.
And what I notice is when I went to my regimen of eating raw, like just fresh, like I'll just make myself some guacamole, and that would help soothe me out because I literally did what you did, like probably went out and had like made like a vegan burger or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, and it just
oh my,
spirals. It's just a spiral. It's
yeah.
like a drug. You're like, oh well, let's go. We're back.
Yeah, literally. It's
Yeah.
like once you start like that, it's hard. And like I promise you, when I ate that guacamole, I didn't eat anything for probably like another 12 hours. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
literally filled me up. And I was like, wow, like so I
Yeah.
can eat like this here and there and then not eat for like 12 hours. That
Right.
is
And that,
like that's the
yeah.
best thing right there.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
kind of like where I would say I've been at for the last like 6 or 7 months now. Yeah, like I guess more in the intermittent fasting space where it's just like a, wow, I haven't eaten since yesterday at 4 o'clock. All right, yeah, I could eat like some mangoes right now or whatever it may be. Yeah.
That is like
Exactly.
that's the best thing is when you can control when and what you eat. You
Mm,
know, like you're like, yeah, I'll do like, you know, I'll probably do like you said, watermelon or this or that, and maybe some soup. But you're not, you know, a slut to the food.
exactly.
Where,
That's a
you
great way
know,
to put it. Yeah.
yeah,
Because we need to
Absolutely.
make decisions based off our tongue all the time, off these desires. And it's like, who's driving the vehicle?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's that part right there.
Yeah, parasites are a real deal thing.
You have
Do
one
you,
question down
yeah,
here.
do you practice grounding?
Mm, love grounding. Honestly, I think lately I need to do a little bit more of it. Um, it's just been, I mean, I don't want to make the excuse it's been cold, but it has been a little chilly here and it's been raining here a lot in Georgia. But yeah, as soon as I am the person that always has their shoes off all the time. Like I'm not in the grocery store with my shoes off. I'm not that person. But like, but like, you know, I'm in the car with my shoes off. I'm wearing slides any chance. Like the first degree of warm, I'm like toes out. So yeah, as soon as I can, I definitely do love to practice that. That's like a great way to just like get those negative ions, just connect Mother Nature, Mother Earth. I'm all about it. All about it.
I have a question
Now,
for you because really quick.
For
Do
sure.
no, yeah,
you
go
are
ahead.
you going to be fasting? Because I know you say you fast for like the new moons. What about the equinoxes? Like the spring equinox is coming up this week. I plan
Hmm.
on doing about a 3 day fast. Like, do you fast around those times as well in alignment with like the conjunction and all of that?
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that because I've been thinking about it. I'm like, is this the confirmation? But like, I try to just really at the space, like I don't try to let my mind dictate my body anymore. The most I try to do is just like maybe step up the breath work. Like maybe I'll do 2 hours instead of 1 hour. And if I still have a desire to eat, then like I guess, but that never happened. Like anytime I get up on the breath work and really am putting in time and doing breath work the way I would do a job, like that is when the desires just kind of fade away. And yeah, I have though. I did actually hosted a fasting retreat in 2020, like in the midst of everything. I had an equinox detox retreat, is what it was called, and we fasted for like a whole weekend. It was a little 3-day thing. And yeah, I mean, so sometimes maybe I will if I get on my breath work, if I put in my work, I'll receive my rewards. But are you doing a water
Absolutely.
fast? Or are you doing a juice fast? Or what you?
I'm gonna be doing a water fast,
Okay.
just strictly water and lemon.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I want to do a raw. Usually, what I do is the first 3 days I'll do like water, and then the fourth day is kind of when I'll break it with like some like guacamole that I'll make fresh or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I try to like.
yeah,
I'm trying to like ease into them. Like I said, like really do them the best way that I can instead of just yo-yoing and waking up like in guilt, trying to like make up for whatever I ate yesterday. Like, okay, now I can't eat and go into this restrictive space. Like, I had to break that
right.
cycle. So I'm just more on like an ebb and flow, focusing on the breath less than the consumption, and just kind of like
Hmm.
letting that dictate my desires.
Have you
Absolutely.
noticed, this is a question from me, but have you noticed that when you are doing breath work, you actually, your appetite ceases? Like
Oh
it
yeah,
may it may not do it completely, but you are getting what you need just from the air and not from, a dense um subject or item.
yeah. No, definitely. That's kind of what I was saying. Like, yeah, when I get into like, I usually do an hour every morning, but if I start to do like the evening session really consistently, or even a third session, I mean, we get energy from the sun, we get energy from grounding, we get energy from prana and the air. Like breatharianism, I do believe in. And honestly, we all are breatharian. We need breath before we need anything else. It is the basis of life. There's just maybe levels to it, but air is
Hmm.
kind of the basis of our like intake and what we consume. So yeah, not definitely like that was like the first thing I noticed when I got into breath work. Like just the habitualness of breakfast. I was like, wow, I'm not, break fast, breakfast. I was just like in a habitualness of breaking the fast every morning with whatever. And I would do breath work for 40 minutes first thing, or even an hour, even 20 minutes. And I would just be like, yo, I'm not hungry at all. Like nothing in me wants to eat. This is crazy. All right, I guess I'm not eating. And that's kind of what like started the whole fasting journey for me. So yeah, it's like they're one and the
Yeah.
same. If you ask me, like the appetite and the breath directly impact each other for sure. Because even
Before
like in the sexual appetite and into the bodily appetites, like it runs so many layers and levels. But the breath, I feel
it
like, is
does.
kind of the foundation of it all. Yeah, all of our desires.
That's
Yeah,
true. It's all about control, and controlling your body. Um,
yeah.
I was gonna say one of the times that I fasted, and it was a long period. It was probably like 12 days, I think, in at this point. Was I was in LA and I was driving. I think it was around like for my mom's birthday, and so we were in LA and I was in the car, and I've been eating in 12 days at this point, and I'm looking around, and all I see is restaurants and fast food places. And it took me to fast for that amount of time to realize how much food is just bombarding us on the day. Like,
Yeah.
or not even if you're not saying food, just consumption of something, because all I see is McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Wendy's, and this mom and pop restaurant and this mom and pop restaurant, and I'm like, food is on every single corner, like
Yeah,
it's nonstop
crazy.
bombarding you with it, but you have to detach and remove yourself away in order to see like that this is the reality, that you are constantly bombarded with stuff that is going against your nature in a sense, because it's not like
Yeah,
you even have control over the food that you may be consuming. You're getting it from somewhere, but you're not actually out there, like how you were out in nature, and you probably surrounded by these these fruit trees and and things like that and vegetables and and so they so this question down below is for you. This is a good segue into this. Is that it says my kids and I started recently because we have the spring garden going. So do you garden at all?
Cool question. I honestly, that is a life goal. I had a little tomato plant growing, but she unfortunately didn't make it through the winter. I had
Oh
traveled and I
man.
forgot about her, and she did not survive. But it is like something I definitely like a part of my like in this lifetime. I do want to have a luscious garden. I just have to figure out where I want to plant those seeds. But yeah, going I love what you said too, because it is like everywhere, and having that direct source to a garden is like a beautiful thing. Like cutting out the millions of middlemen. It's not even like one middleman anymore. It's like so many now, so far away from like the fruit on the tree, and even the soils now are like poisoned up. Like it's just crazy. So like the more we can get to the natural, the better, and just away from like yeah the sedation and stimulation, because that's kind of all it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree.
From Mojo the Sensei, they say, what do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do?
Okay.
What's your motivation for this way of life?
Great question. It's like funny, this is a relevant question right now. So why do you do what you do? I would like it to be more like why do I be what I be? Because I feel like I'm not doing as much as I'm being these days. Because I felt like I working in the film industry, like I mentioned, and like working on these jobs, and kind of I went to college. I took the steps of life you're supposed to take, supposed to, should, all these phrases, right? And I just felt like I was running and chasing, and they're the same thing, man. And I
Mm.
think now that I'm at this space where I'm a lot more of like being, and it's more of like a wholesome way to connect with people like you and share something that we all have in common, breathing, right? Like no matter your shade, size, where you live, you breathe, and we all have that in common. And yeah, it's just really like the most rewarding thing I think I could do on this lifetime is really connect people to their true selves through something as simple as the breath, and like remind them like, yo, you don't need that medicine, you don't really need that thing, you don't need that doctor or whatever you think you need, you can actually just take a deep breath. And it sounds so simple, but it is so powerful. And I guess for the second half of it, what's my motivation for this way of life? I mean, yeah, I guess kind of going into what I just said, but really just like starting that ripple. I think when we change ourselves, we can change the world. And that might sound like dreamy or foo-foo-y, but like it starts with one ripple, man. And it's already, I mean, I think in subtle ways it is happening. I think that's kind of a lot why a lot of chaos it looks like is going on in the world, but I think it might be a big detox going on at the same time, like I don't know. It's
Hmm.
a lot of perspectives you could put on it, as a
I
whole.
think
But
I
yeah.
think you're 100% correct on that, Casey. Like, I tell a lot of people, like, I stopped posting a lot of political stuff. Like, I don't post any of that anymore. And it's because this is what they're trying to get people to manifest, this type of reality.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like the world is taking a ginormous dump right now. It's
Hmm.
it's that's pretty much what it is. It's like it's passing all the parasites.
Right.
And a lot of people don't look at it like that. A lot of people are like, "Oh no, this is, New World Order, and we're going." It's like things have to get worse before they get better. And so, if
Yeah.
you've ever experienced a fast where you are passing this gunk that has been in your body for who knows how long, and these toxins that you've put in it, your body has to eradicate all that to get better.
Hmm. And it's been there
So
for
it,
years. It's stuff that's been there since you were 10 that's coming out of your body. So like it
yeah,
takes time. It takes time. I think we're so used to
exactly.
an instant fix, we're the microwave generation. So we're like, it's still happening? This is still going on?
Oh my
Right.
God, microwaves. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I can't believe that even popped up in the conversation.
Microwaves.
Yes, please, if you guys are using microwaves in 2022, please stop.
Please, please just, there's
It's
other ways.
just eat
Yeah.
it cold at that point. Just eat it cold. Just
I
let it
don't get
get room
nothing frozen.
temperature.
Yeah, nah, I don't really have a reason to warm anything up. I mean, yeah, if I don't finish it in the sitting, then I'm not finishing it probably. Like I don't do leftovers like that no more.
Same.
Is there anything that you want to end with? Anything that you're working on? Anything that you have coming up? Anything like
Um,
that?
yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me. This is like a really fluid conversation. I really appreciated the questions. Were some really quality questions, so I really appreciate that first and foremost. And yeah, if you are interested in learning more, if you've never done breathwork before, I would like to think I have a very like easy, approachable place to begin this journey with. And the link in my bio, as cliche as that sounds, has all the goodies in it. I have a YouTube channel, has a lot of freebies, but I also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you really just need somebody, I know for me when I first started, I wish somebody was just there to guide me, because like to be present with yourself for that duration is difficult at first. So yeah, I have hour-long sessions, weekly sessions we can book. I have a longer, extended, like more intentional based program you can sign up for. I got a lot of goodies, but yeah, the link in my bio has all the info. So
Yeah, you're like the advocate for breath work at this point. Like
yeah,
everybody should know you.
absolutely.
We brought somebody in who wanted to
Peace,
engage
peace.
real quick. What's
Yeah,
up,
what's
man?
up,
How you
man?
doing?
How's it
What's
going?
good, man? I always hop on when you got Taylor on here too. Usually ask a couple questions.
I'm the
The
Hmm.
female version.
the guru Eris is in the house. Hello, hello.
I am the female version. I am the younger sister.
Yeah. No, I follow you too. I got on through your brother, but I follow you as well. You guys
That's
definitely
what's up,
drop
man.
a lot of jewels. I'm uncharacteristically smoking a cigar, asking about breath work. So, but
All good. It's like people wearing masks and working out. It doesn't make sense, but people do
Right?
I
it.
still see that
no,
in the gym to this
People do
day.
it.
Still to this day.
It doesn't make any sense, but
I'm like,
hey,
so you're just
here.
gonna
No.
get your mouth all sweaty? Never mind. Yeah.
The whole thing.
but no, I did want to ask, as far as yeah, I know I've heard you guys talk about like two more breaths, and what what is the differences? How do you go about that, like a two more breath? Because I've heard you speak about that before and whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's a valid question. It's kind of like a slept-on breathing technique, I think, because we're so used to maybe the Wim Hof and the kind of faster, what they call circular breaths, where like no holds really happen. So I do have a guided like 10 2mo breath video on my Instagram and on my YouTube if you want to tap in. But to explain it real quick, it's just 1 to 2 breaths per minute. So it's really, really, really slowing down a complete breath to get more into the parasympathetic. So it's like possibly a 7 to 10 second inhale, 7 to 10 second hold. You're locking all this air in, your diaphragm's full, and then a 7 to 10 second exhale with a 7 to 10 second hold at the bottom of the breath. So it's a really, really slow. You can imagine that's about like 30 to 40 seconds of just one breath. And
Okay.
it creates this kind of like inner fire instead of like, we might be used to the breath of fire that a lot of people are used to, that kind of like, that like, that kind of
Right.
pattern. It achieves like, to me, like a more detoxified breath and really like inner heat. You'll feel your body. You might sweat, and it's literally like a sauna you're going inside of within your body. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
because
just
I was like trying to do it, and you said like one breath per minute. So I'm like, what the hell do I do? Do I hold my breath, like
mm-hmm,
exhaling and inhaling? But that's a
mm-hmm.
better explanation of it.
My
Like,
bad. I'm laughing because everything he's saying, I'm imagining him smoking a cigar right now. And
bro,
I know he's pointing it around
I'm
too
telling
while
you,
he's
it's
asking
way.
it. Nah, essentially it's longer breath holds at the bottom and the top of the inhale and the exhale. Yeah, to keep it really, really simple, it's like an extended hold, extended inhale, exhale. But yeah, like I said, I got a
I
guided
wanted,
video on it, so I'm gonna
I
check it
wanted to
out. But
bring a
it's
little irony. I wanted to bring a little irony to the conversation. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
contrast is always necessary,
he's
man.
like, how do you inhale and exhale?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
will
like,
say,
what?
I will say, 2mo breaths are probably one of the more advanced. So be patient with yourself in the practice, because when I first started, it was not easy. A lot of us aren't taking that slow
I
of a
feel
breath.
you.
Yeah, but
Now I've been like on a 4-day fast. I wanted to fuck around and do something wild today. You know, this is
let's
that day.
go.
Like,
How were you water fasting or juice fasting?
yeah, I was hold on, my fault. I was I did a green juice fast, and then I led into like today was a whole water fast, just
Oh,
distilled
nice.
water. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Hell yeah.
yeah, it was just like now. Honestly, I did like a all fruit, like 2 days ago. Then I went to the green juice, and now I'm at water. And then I'm gonna go to a dry fast like the day after tomorrow, probably.
He's going in.
You know what I
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
mean?
so let me
Getting
ask
riper
you a
than
question.
equinox.
Since you pretty much are just fresh doing that, have you noticed your breathing getting better within that short time?
Oh, of course, bro. No, I mean like I've been doing this for a minute. You know, like fast.
Yeah.
Like I got into Islam real young, so I did the whole fasting for Ramadan and everything, and then
Hmm.
Mm.
I started watching fucking Taylor's videos and then shit like that. Not that he influenced me so heavily on mm, like reaching away from religion, but you know, it's just one of those stepping stones that I'm like what was it? Ra always the Metal Netter, like things
Hmm.
Oh
like that
yeah, yeah.
resonate. You know what I mean? Things like that resonate more than religion being that mainstream religions, should I say? You know what I mean?
Hmm. For
Mm-hmm.
sure. Yeah.
So it's just
That's one of those books you can't unknow. You read it and you're like, damn, all
right.
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 I
I,
can't.
Tao Te Ching too, you know?
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
It,
haven't even read the whole thing, honestly. I just know little snippets here and there and the
Yeah. I
whole
mean,
idea
it's
of it.
not an easy one for sure. It made me feel like I didn't know how to read at first. I was like, damn, I don't know how to read. This is crazy, but it's worth it. At the end, there's a lot of touches. It touches on a lot of breath work. It's actually kind of where I learned a lot. So yeah,
For sure. Nah,
shout
yeah,
out to
yeah, yeah.
Prof.
I wanted to pay my praises. You know what I mean? You definitely helped me along my journey. So much
Appreciate that,
respect.
man. Thanks, man. I
No,
received.
yeah, we love when you join the live, man. We love when you join the live. Live.
Oh,
You got it. You
you're a
got
regular, huh?
I
on
hopped on there a
Taylor's.
couple
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
For
Definitely
sure,
on
for sure.
Taylor's videos.
That's
We're
what's up.
familiar with Mr. Fernandez here.
Nah,
That's what's
man,
up.
but much love and respect to y'all, man. Keep putting out the good word, and you already know.
Here we go.
Hey.
Hey, thank y'all for taking my request. I wanted to thank you all for all the knowledge and wisdom that you're sharing with us all. I have a question. Do you guys ever deal with any naturopathic doctors just to do your yearly checkups, if at all, or because I've heard about eating live and juicing a lot that it can affect your spleen. So I was wondering what you guys thought about that.
Y'all want to take it? Y'all got answers? You want me
Well, when you say affect your spleen, you mean in a negative or a positive way?
In a negative way, saying like if you eat or drink a lot of cold things into the body, it kind of shocks the body. So I was wondering what you guys, if you felt
Yeah.
anything on your spleen at all from those,
Well,
drinking a
definitely
lot
don't
of cold
consume them
things.
cold. I can just say my 2 cents of like, I don't
Hmm.
really consume them cold. Water is usually room temperature. The fruit is usually room temperature. Juice is, I'll let it sit outside the fridge for a second before I just dive in. Because you're right, it definitely does shock the body and shocks the nervous system. And it doesn't really give us as much benefits when it's just like a natural temperature as the body. You throw off the homeostasis, you throw off the pH, you throw off a lot in the body when we shock it like that. But personally, I haven't. It's funny that you bring that up. That's something I've like in the last year maybe thought about, like just to see. But I personally I can't speak on it because I haven't visited any kind of doctor or anything in a long time, very long time. So I don't know about y'all.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I don't go to
Same.
a doctor, but I know you weren't saying they're your natural, like,
Yeah.
hospital doctor, but
Yeah.
never, I will never go to them ever. I
Nah.
don't suggest anybody does unless you maybe break an arm or something. That's the only time you go to them, but you never go to them for your internal health.
Mm.
I would suggest going to a nutritionist and just schooling yourself on that. But um, the only thing I feel like should shock the body is a cold shower, and then that's not even detrimental to your health. But when you are juicing or drinking water, pretty much exactly what Casey said. Everything should be room temperature. It should be natural. Like if you're just think about if you pour water in a cup or any type of juice and you put it in the freezer, it's basically unnaturally getting it cold. It's taken out of its natural form that it was and putting it in a different form. So you want it in its purest form that it could be. So if you're juicing and it doesn't come out, 20 degrees Celsius, it's like that's not the form that you want it in. You want it in whatever form that it comes naturally in. So I would say I haven't heard about it affecting your spleen or something like that. But then again, there's all kinds of stuff that affects, whatever. So
Yeah.
just stick to as natural as anything possibly can be, and then you're fine.
Yeah, and I think just like I don't know, there's a lot of ways to fast and a lot of ways to do it. So like a lot of people might get into juice feasting where you're just like drinking a lot of juice, and I can see that maybe like just having like an overload of that's still a lot of consumption at the end of the day. So maybe like that's why like where I'm at, I'm like, put the breath first and then see if you still even want the whatever the one is. So yeah, I don't know. That's food for thought. Thought for food is just as far as like how much you're consuming, because that could have its effects. Like anything in excess is never usually good. But
Absolutely.
yeah. Hopefully that answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because you guys have knowledge of self, I was just wondering if you sought any outside sources like muscle testing, naturopathic doctors, just to make sure that you have everything covered as far as just being in tune with yourself.
Yeah. Personally, I haven't.
Go ahead, Casey.
No, all I was gonna say was personally I haven't like gone to a naturopathic doctor, but it is something I've like maybe considered. I've read a lot of Dr. Africa's books. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
As far as like having awareness in your body through what his texts share, so that you don't necessarily have to go outside of yourself. But
I was going to say that's exactly what my point was going to be, is that your body kind of, as you start the journey, like I said earlier, it's like one decision trickles into other things that your body naturally is leading you to. And like we were also talking about, the body's more conscious than you think. It's more conscious than you're conscious. So your body is going to naturally lead you to where you are supposed to be. And it's going to give you the nutrient. It's going to lead you to give it the nutrients that it needs at the time. And that's kind of how I like work. I don't really deal with any doctors as well. I kind of follow and listen to my body. And like she said, fasting is the greatest thing that you can do. That's something I learned from Dr. Sebi. Is just that, the more you fast, the more you can cleanse yourself and clear yourself, and you kind of like, you can see what your body actually has been missing and what it actually needs more of as well.
Yeah, and that was perfect. I just wanted to add too, if anyone's new to fasting, I just meant to say this earlier, that like a lot of times we'll be like, man, I got a headache or I don't feel good, but like you might have not, you've been feeling that, you've just been numb with all these other things, and now they're coming to the surface. And so I know for me, when I was first getting into fasting, I'm like, my head hurts. Like this is not, I don't think this is good for me. This isn't good for me. But actually, like when you see it through and make it over that mountain, it's really like, that's been how your body's been trying to get your attention with that a lot of times, and it's actually really rewarding on the other side of that. But
And on that same note, when we start talking about doctors and then medication, what they do is they get rid of those symptoms that your body is trying to tell you that something is wrong, and so that's why I say to completely just stay away from doctors, because they are suppressing your body's signals when they're giving you these types of medications. And now when you're talking about naturopathic doctors and all, this is different. I would say take on any type of knowledge you gain from anything, but at the end of the day, you know what's best for you and you know what's right for you. Your body does. And that's, that, like, I can't really give you an answer. You can give you the answer.
Absolutely.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, like nobody knows you better than you do, So.
Yeah, see, the reason I brought that up, because have you guys ever had muscle testing before?
Personally,
no.
Well, I thought I knew what I liked until I got muscle tested, and my body was pretty much talking to the doctor when she put certain things near my spleen or near my heart or near my just certain parts of my body, and things that I used to crave that my body didn't really care for, but I was almost a slave to my tongue. So it were healthy like chips, bean chips, but my body didn't really care for it. But I liked it, but I
Yeah.
didn't realize that at the time. So I
Yeah.
guess I'm not on your level as being in tune because I've cut out so much stuff to the point where I'm fasting that I could recognize that my body didn't really care for it, even though I craved it.
Yeah. Well, cravings aren't usually you. Anything that's like craving is interrupting that like homeostasis piece that the body actually naturally always is. When you have a craving, typically a parasite. It's yes, and it's never really like you, because you like your true essence. And I believe this, and like Raul Nefer, our man, the person that wrote Better Netter, preaches this a lot. But like, we would never want to cause harm on ourselves in any way. And a lot of these foods are harmful to ourselves. So when we get these cravings for like processed foods or whatever it may be, like you are inflicting pain, you are swelling the body and swelling the organs. And like, I just had to mention that real quick. That like, yeah, I just encourage you to like, man, that craving isn't you. It's hard to see it through sometimes, but it's like not your true pure soul.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll just add on to what Casey said real quick is that I would say anything that's not natural is not you. And you have your body has it has a natural sense to things. So for an example, you have some people who are like, let's say they're lactose intolerant, right? It's like everybody should be lactose intolerant because you should not be intaking dairy.
Right.
It's coming from a cow. Like, it's that's a natural thing. But when you start to, some people, they become so numb to it that when they do intake dairy, it doesn't affect them as fast as it may affect somebody who's lactose intolerant. But that doesn't mean that you're not. You know what I mean? It's still not something that's natural to the body. So, like when you say that, they were doing these tests on you and stuff, and you say you weren't in tune. It's just that you were numb to that. You weren't aware of that fact that these things weren't serving your body the best purpose, and that goes with everyone. It's like you're not different in that sense. It's just some people they may have more awareness to that fact at that time. Certain things that aren't good for them, or they shouldn't be intaking.
Yeah. And I think as we grow and evolve, you realize a lot of things you probably liked at 10 years old you don't like right now. So like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's all a part of the growth.
Yeah, exactly. Growing and learning. So don't I would say don't think that, you're behind or you're far behind or you just don't know stuff. Like we're all, dude, this world is a school. We're all learning, we're all growing. And,
No
I'm
such
sure that was probably a wake up call when you did do that where you're just like, wow, like I need to look into stuff more. And that's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean you're behind at all. That just means that you may be way ahead of some other people, man, who have no idea. There may be people eating buffalo wings every day. You know what I mean? And they don't even know. Like, there's really people who think buffaloes have wings because they eat that. You know what I'm saying? So,
Oh
They
my
like,
gotta,
gosh.
somebody gotta do
yeah,
something about that.
it's happened, man. Trust me. I've had these conversations with people, and I'm just like, wow.
Wow.
So, yeah, man. I think the more you look into stuff, the more you find stuff, the more that it'll, um, your own body and your spirit will know what's right for you.
Hmm.
That's a beautiful
Um,
thing.
Yeah. That was a great question.
Um,
But I
yeah,
yeah,
that
that was
appreciate
incredible.
y'all for spreading the knowledge and wisdom. Thank you very much.
You know, do you guys have any advice for somebody trying to, find it on their own way? You know?
absolutely. I was just talking about it before you came on. I was just talking about how you have good cravings and bad cravings. And when you talk about parasites, parasites tend to make you crave things outside of your natural like physiology, right?
Right.
So when you think about fast food or you think about snacks like Oreos and cookies and just chips or whatever, those are actually parasites tricking your mind to think that you want these things. And naturally, your body is trying to always detox itself from whatever it knows that is not natural. And
Mm.
so as far as cravings, you have to start training your mind and conditioning your mind to crave the healthy things and the good things. And as far as like, if you want to eat something like cookies, you want to say, okay, I need to start learning that I'm craving sugar because of this feeling, right? I'm missing out on this aspect of life. So let me crave.
Just to let you guys know, I'm a real person. So my
Oh
bad.
yeah.
I was
No,
posted
no.
up.
Nah,
But
you're a robot.
but you guys are looking at just a black screen, so my bad.
Yeah,
But I
you're
gotta
good.
get up dummy early, but I'm listening though. But
Yeah, no, you just want to crave good things, man. You want to control the narrative in your mind. That's like where it really starts. Because if you lose that mind battle, you're going to be susceptible to whatever craving that your body is pushing on you. And it's going to try to push it into your subconscious until you give in. So, I would say like a good self-talk, and even like she said, like breath work, these are things that will help with these cravings, and it will direct you to the right cravings of, you know what, I'm craving energy now. I'm just craving fresh air. I'm craving aligning my breath with nature, and just actually like wanting to do things in a natural way. So that's like a good way to deal with cravings.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add to that real quick. That a lot of times when we feel like eating things, there's an emotion attached. You're like, I feel like eating chips. You're probably frustrated. It's crunchy. I feel like having something soft. Probably craving like love. A lot of time. I mean, a lot of it is emotional voids that we fill with food. So the breath work is like the perfect tool to kind of navigate that. And really, like, you'd be surprised what 3 deep breaths will reset for you, and you're like, wow, all right, I'm not hungry. I'm actually not hungry. I really just, it's a habitual thing or it's an emotional void. Most like 99% of the time, we're just kind of like used to doing it. But
Let
yeah,
me
so
add
well,
on to both of
I
them
feel like
real quick.
and oh yeah, my bad.
Well, I was just gonna say, mainly you guys are talking about food, but it's also, I mean, you have things like sex that parasites
yeah,
also. I mean,
all
there's,
desires.
yeah, it goes beyond just food. And if you're someone who doesn't have purpose, or haven't found a purpose, then you're easily controllable. And this is one of the main things I think that does help with anything, cravings, whatever, addictions, is finding a purpose, and your mind is no longer on any of that stuff anymore because you're actually working towards something. So it's like you can look at it as a deep or spiritual certain type of aspect to it, but it's actually really, really easy. Like it truly is really easy, but it's just that a lot of people get deterred because of the fake reality that we live in. And so when you have your own, just that own thing that you're driving towards, and we're just kind of delving off of diet and all that for a second, is your focus is not on those things that the such things as parasites tend to put out there for you to manifest and have a thought of and all that. So there's a lot of power in just having purpose.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
tend to just want to stimulate you to sedate you. That's really
Right.
Exactly.
all it is. Keep you
Exactly.
sedated.
I agree with everything that you guys have said, and I appreciate that wisdom. And it's funny, it's like every time that I'm acting up, or like let's say if I drink and I'm hungover, I eat bad food, and like obviously, and like, but that always throws me off my game. And like my purpose, is to just on the topic of what you said, is like to get healthy and to get right, and like to do the right thing. But when I engage in these bad behaviors, it completely fucks me up and throws me off my whack. And then you spend the time getting back to where you thought you should be instead of progressing to where you could be. And but anyway, no. But I just wanted, I just wanted to talk to you guys and pick your brains for a little bit. So I appreciate that. You know.
Of
Yeah, man.
course. I'll
Yeah.
say this, and I'll let you guys top it off. Is we've all probably have been there. Like none of us, I would say, are perfect. We're all still learning. We're all still growing. But I will say this, if you are in a situation where you have like you said, you may engage in certain things that may not be good for you. It's probably it's a lot easier said than done for some people. For me, it's just super easy. But it's we were talking about detachment. Is if you find yourself going to clubs and bars and all this, detach yourself from that immediately because that's not aiding in your health journey. If you are
Right.
drinking alcohol, detach yourself from that because that's not aiding in your health journey. So it may be different for you than some other people in how to do it, but you know that you have to do it. You know, there's a lot of guys who are out here chasing women, and and I'm talking to the men specifically on this. There's a lot of guys out here chasing women with no purpose. They have no purpose. There's no nothing they're working towards. So what happens is that becomes their purpose, and everything else just falls apart. So you have to. That's why the importance of a purpose is is so detrimental to especially men. And so if you're saying that you're on a health journey, you may have to detach yourself from dating, from
You gotta cut
women,
a lot
all
of
this
shit
stuff.
off. And
Exactly.
I
And
struggle with that sometimes, man, because it's hard to cut everybody off sometimes. But when everybody is not doing what you need to do, and it's what you got to do.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. You start to ask yourself why until you can't ask why anymore. And I'm like, all right, why am I going to the club? Why do I want to feel that? Why do I want to do that? Why? Why?
And,
Until you
and when
literally
you
get to
really
the
ask, it doesn't serve you at all. Like, and
yeah.
but I think not to use a cliche, but for lack of a better term, like, I gotta man up, but like woman up or just gender up, like whatever, just bulk the up, and like just stop making excuses, you
Yeah.
know,
I
and
mean, even
like,
just like one day, like you only got right now. So like tomorrow, wake
right,
up,
right,
right,
24 hours, you got your choices to make, and that's why the breath is so, I got to go back to it. But breath work and decision making are one and the same. Like when you're in a calmer state, you make better choices. And if we're in these anxious spaces, we really don't make the best choices most of the time.
right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And once again, if you can't control your breath, what can you control?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everything is going to boil back down to that. It can focus on controlling your breath, which is you, and controlling you because you can't control what other people do, but you can control how you react to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, your reaction is everything because you can react negatively, you can react positively, and when you react positively, then you are creating a positive environment, a positive mindset, and everything for yourself. And this is how you break free of a lot of this stuff. You may surprise yourself. You may be like, "Dang, I had no idea I can do this or accomplish this," and that's because you haven't put yourself in that state. So, I would say if you're not already, follow Casey and her stuff, and then you will start to develop these things for yourself by doing breath work, something as simple as that, and then you'll start to see your life change and those cravings go away and those thoughts go away, that all this negative stuff, or at least the things that you see negative, start to completely cease.
yeah. I gotta
Yeah.
get my shit together, and I'm working on it. But I appreciate you guys speaking truth like this, and all you guys, like all three of you. And I'm gonna stop taking up a lot of your time, but I appreciate you for letting me rock like this, and you know, keep speaking truth.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
most definitely.
Thanks,
course.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
I was just going to
Wait.
talk about the just, he was talking about being alone, and I feel like if you're not alone in like in any part of your journey, you have to go through that alone stage. And if you don't, you really don't know who you truly are to your
Yeah.
Right.
essence because you have so many distractions and so much energy around that you can't clear it all out and just focus on you. So I feel like anybody that's afraid to take that journey into the darkness by themselves, you're never going to fully understand or understand who you truly
Mhm.
are.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
have
I
to
mean,
be
yeah.
comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's something that people just have to accept. Like all of us on here, I'm sure we've accepted that somewhere along the line of our journey. So you
Yeah.
have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable because that's where you find out who you truly are. Because you're
Yeah.
going to
Hmm.
push yourself either one way or another. and then you're gonna be able to see everything that's leading you to that way or leading you to that other way. And that's when you're able to decipher and make the proper discernment between yourself and your spirit and your mind and all of that.
Yeah, no, that was well said. Discernment, I feel like, is something you really learn when you're by yourself. Because you're like, would I do this if this person wasn't here? You know, like a lot of things you're
Right.
like stimulated and sedated by people even. And yeah, spending that time with self is big, man. That's like a good bar to drop for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, the more spiritually in tune I became over the years, the more I appreciated and loved being alone. And you're gonna always have you. So if you're not good and you're not right, then you're never gonna be. It doesn't matter who you're with, it doesn't matter what scenario or what situation you're in. You take everything that you are with you there. So I would say focus on being alone, and that's something that I would say is purpose. That will give you purpose and bettering yourself, whether it's physically, mentally, or spiritually. But focus on being alone. If you found somebody, that's fantastic, but that person can also leave you, and you can also leave that person. But you always have you, so you want to make sure you're good always.
Yeah.
I will. So we're gonna close out here because we've already taken a lot of Casey's time, and we've been on here for 3 Instagram lives.
It's only one
Yeah,
It's only 1 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what time is it here? Let's see. Hold on.
it's
It's
about to be
it's
10.
9.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
about
Yeah.
to be 10
No, we
o'clock.
went in, but it flowed really well. It was a good combo, so I appreciate it.
We don't have to deal
Yeah.
with daylight savings anymore, so they finally gave up that bullshit myth, today. So
I know. I was like, how are you going to control time? Like, you can't control time. Time don't
Did
even
they
exist.
did they give that up somewhere? Did somebody
yeah,
say?
the Senate,
Okay.
the
Yeah,
Senate, they voted on it today to just be done with it,
yeah.
and
Really?
Eradicated.
it's about damn time. It's
Wow,
about
I
damn
didn't even
time.
know. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what happens when you live in a van, Casey. You know.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm with the circadian rhythm. I don't really know what's going on.
Right.
I don't even watch the news. I don't even know what
Like it's
happens.
3 o'clock. Like it's 3 o'clock. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. I mean, but see, that's the thing is I don't even operate with time. You know what I mean? Like time is nothing to me. I just like, what did I do within the time that the sun went up and the sun came down, and
Right.
was it worth it?
Yeah.
So, hopefully we all gather some, positive things out of the days that we have. So, Casey, we want to thank you for joining us tonight / last night for you. Um,
Appreciate it.
Once again, I'll let you know about the panel soon because I think that's going to be awesome. And for people who may not have been able to engage with you tonight / last night, we'll be able to do that in the future when we have you on again.
I just want to say thank you again, Casey. Make sure that you guys follow her, and she has so much great material to just offer the world. And make sure you follow all 3 of us. Actually, we all are contributing, and I really believe that the more we can connect with like-minded individuals, the world it becomes a better place, and it becomes more aware. And each one teach one. So really take this information for yourselves. Do do the work. Do the research, and then start teaching other people about this as well. So everything can just spiral out into this spider web effect where everybody's interconnected from the source. And the source is not Casey, me, or Simo. The source is spirit itself. So as soon as we all can connect at the source, we will be able to really communicate on a higher level and vibrate on higher frequencies.
Agreed.
Yeah, that was it. Drop the mic.
Yeah, mic drop. Everybody else, have a good night, and thank you for tuning in.
All right, thank y'all. Peace.
Peace.